yo, what it do, what it do. It's your boy Yellow the Poet. And today I'm here with Mr. Adam Levine. He's a coach and he has definitely done some things to take himself on a journey to help other people. We're going to definitely get more into it and learn more about what Mr. Adam Levine has been doing. I'm pretty sure you wear multiple hats. We just did a little bit of talking before the show, and I am so ready for this gentleman. Thank you so much, Adam, for being a part of YTP Entertainment. Definitely welcome you as a guest. Please let our people know what you got going.
Yeah, listen, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I was going to say we had some great dialogue before pre-live recording, but definitely first want to say thank you so much at the bottom of my heart for having me on your show. And yeah, I'm excited to kind of, bring my message. I just launched my coaching business maybe 3 months ago. It's called Inner X Lab, and it's really up and coming, but it's some really cool stuff, and just it's already been sort of unwrapping, but I just can't wait to tell your people and your followers about it. It's really going to be a huge game changer in the
Awesome.
business.
Awesome. So what motivated you to actually get started in the business?
Yeah, so I think what got motivated me, so I do work a full-time job. I've always worked in the corporate world, and I'm in my second a career switch, went to grad school. I work in risk management, and before that, I can say that my prior company I worked for was S&P Global. Can't say where I currently work now just because I've done some stuff, but I can name drop some other places. But I did
Understood.
work at S&P. I actually had the chance. I work in audit, so I had the chance of auditing the S&P 500. So I know a lot of the ins and outs of it. But I will say that when I worked at S&P Global, that was like, for me, that was a huge leg up. It was during COVID, worked at a small bank, and like there's so much going on. And I was fortunate where a lot of people were losing their job. Unfortunately, I gained my job, but I was like in the big leagues, right? Like I felt like I was a big smish. I was a big fish in a small pond at the small bank. And then I go to S&P and I'm like, you're like nothing. It's like the Navy's like Navy SEALs, like everyone's good. But how
Uh-huh.
do I get my leg up on that? And I just knew that. And I always knew, but like I just felt like it just was like literally like I needed something, and I needed power. And also I think the biggest issue that I had was distraction. And the reason that made it different was that this was a full-time job that was remote.
Mhm.
So working your entire life in a job where it's completely in the office and then COVID hit, I was like, I was getting distracted. There's a lot going on, my wife, my two kids, they're 7 and 4 now, but before that they were younger. So
Mhm.
like no one knew what was going on. It was just like you thought the world was ending. So there's a lot going on there. And I think that, for me, it was a lot of soul searching, I think, amongst other people. But
Mhm.
for me, I really kind of took this amazing course, and it's really based on neuroscience. I'm very much into self-help.
Mhm.
But, like I said, I think that was the biggest thing that kind of got me into this path. And then when I learned it myself, I was like, wow, this is amazing. And I was like, this is a secret science. Let me be selfish. Let me hold on to it myself. But then down the road, I was like, I have a bigger mission and a bigger calling to serve the world, and serve one person at a time. And that's kind of how I got started, and kind of sort of that path from a intrinsic perspective.
Awesome, awesome. So for your current business, what is your mission statement and what does it mean to you?
That's wow, that's a good question. It's a good thing I actually got that under control. So I can't actually say that. So essentially, so again, I'm a high performance coach.
Mhm.
So again, it's Inner X Lab. Inner X Lab's mission is to essentially decode the science of ultimate human performance. So it's really understanding the science that's going on in those amazing things that people do. So essentially, its Interact's mission is to decode the science of ultimate human performance and essentially use that science to train up both individuals and organizations. So it's really like this whole concept of being in the zone or being in flow. So how is Michael Jordan able to do what he's able to do? How is he able to be on fire? Those are the things that I basically do. In a nutshell, if you think of action sports and you think about Red Bull, you think about all the stunt devils stuff that go on, or
Mhm.
Tony Hawk, the skateboarder. What are
Yes,
they
yes.
doing? So this started, and one of my, honestly, I want to say a mentor, someone that I really do look up to as a person. He's
Mhm.
just popular. His name is Stephen Kotler. And he's part of the Flow Research Collective. That's how I got started. But really, this kind of this whole thing started in Flow, or how I got into it is that Flow, like I said, was somewhat of a secret science, but Flow is this concept that this research was going on 20 years ago, which was like, what the hell is going on with like people that are doing it? So really what it is it's a science that's starting from the amazing things that people are doing. Now, how do you understand the key triggers and the elements of what they're able to do? And let's take that into a day-to-day situation into the office or as an entrepreneur. And how can we use what they're doing? So you don't have to be Tony Hawk to do the spins that he's doing, but
Mhm.
there's some preconditions of what's going on from a neurological perspective. And
Right.
you're really taking that and you're downstreaming it to what you're doing. That's essentially my training in a nutshell,
Awesome.
to an
Awesome.
extent.
So, as far as being a coach and the desire to help people, what part of that is the part that ignites the spark in you? What part of that ignites you and wants you to just do this irregardless and just make this a part of your everyday life?
I think it's just the helping people. I think that the moments when I just talk, I do speak from the heart and I speak from instinct. Um, so I do feel it, right? And I'm don't get me wrong, not everyone may follow what I follow, right? And that's okay. But I think at the end of the day, it's really sticking to how I feel. But I think that just to get back on your question, I think the biggest thing for me is really when I am really speaking from my heart and I'm really being purely authentic. And I hear that I can tell immediately the dopamine's running, that curiosity when people are like, huh. And that right there just gets me going. And it may not. And it challenges me for the people that don't. But I could tell within like 5 seconds whether or not you're interested. And I think just giving a little light to people that may need it is just really does a whole lot. I think that when you're willing to tell your story, they tell theirs. And I think the biggest problem we have in corporate America is humility. But I
Mhm.
think humility serves as a powerful object.
Yes.
And I think that's really my intrinsic motivator is that I want to help people. And someone told me I was like it's funny, my friend invited me to a hockey event and it was the Rangers. I was in not at the hot seat. I was like in the box, the sky box. It was cool. And literally, I think my friend at this point might have gotten a little, he's like, "What are you doing? I brought you here." But then suddenly, like I was talking from the heart, and I felt like I had this entire like following of people just sitting around me in a circle. And they're like, "Yo, where's your book? I want it." And I think that was also a big move to say, "Oh shit, like I need it." Like I already knew I was on that path, but like
Yes.
I could have had like 5 clients right there. I didn't, but I think I knew that like right then and there, I wasn't even watching hockey. I think my coworkers like, "You're an asshole. Like, what are you doing, dude?" But I honestly think that was a huge point when I that was a culminating event for me to really want to do what I'm doing.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So let me ask you this,
Yeah.
because I like that answer. I love that answer. So, what part of this that you're doing gives you the oomph to take care and balance your life? Because the reason why I'm asking that is because it's a tough situation where you have a family, you have a full-time job, and you're doing entrepreneurship. So where do you get your balance from?
That's a very good question. I try to find that every day. I mean, in all honesty, I mean, it's security. I mean, the truth is that if you're fortunate to be a teacher or work for the city, you have a pension. My wife and I, we don't work for the city or any of that, but I think it's a knowing that in general, it's like resiliency that I'm doing it for my family. So it's not just for myself, but on the back end of it, I really do love what I do. So like for me, it's also not about money, but I would like to try to monetize, but really more so I have that monetization to help more people and get more of my message out. But to answer your question, yeah, it is tough, right? I mean, weekends and stuff, like my wife is very understanding, but yeah, it's definitely hard. There are times like I'm doing, staying focused, and other people see that. And it's funny, like I guess I don't see that. I'm like, really? I'm doing all this? And my publicist at the time actually said something like, actually like did a story on it right now that they're trying to pitch, and I have gotten featured actually on two main articles recently. But yeah.
Yeah.
And that was like really a big question that really came up there was like, how do you do it? And I like had to take a step back and I was like, oh wow, I am doing it. So I think again, it's like living from my instinct and passion. And it, again, I think that having that, I think intrinsically, I guess the way that you look at it, I never thought of it like that. And that's part of what my coaching is about, is really inspiring what you're doing. Or if you have a job, you like it, it's getting back to why you look about it. I forgot what the movie was. It was like it was with like it was called The Catch. It was with Freddie Prinze. And I remember like he loved baseball, right? And he was in Cape Cod. Damn, it was with Jessica Biel. And I remember it was the guy from Scooby-Doo. He was like the tall guy.
Yeah.
And he did it, and like he was on like a AAA farm team, or he was getting scouted for one, and he loved baseball and he was a pitcher. But like
Mm.
at some point that got he forgot about it because it was all about the money and it was all about that. And it was like the last game of the World Series or for the finals, and he's like, yo, he said something that I use as my line. And towards it, he's like, yo, it's just like catch. It's just like schoolyard catch, dog. He's like, it's just like school. And he's saying this in real time during the event. And I think about that and I'm like, it's just like a schoolyard catch. Like it just, you got to like it. Meaning like, what does that mean? To me, that line means I'm just playing baseball. I'm having fun. So to me, it's just, it's the game of life. I enjoy it enough to know that I need to balance it and it's there when I need it. But yes, it is a drag sometimes. I don't want to lie and just be it's all roses and butterfly. But I think
Right.
I do live from my heart, and it's like Rocky, right? Like I live for I have a lot of heart, and I think to me the way that you look at it, I look at it very differently than that.
Mhm. Well, I can tell you this from our perspective, just from the conversations that we've had, you definitely show a sense of passion and you show that go-getters mentality because it's like when I want it, I gotta go out there and get it. I want it, and that right there is that spark, kind of like the way that they say it in the Transformers. That's that spark. It gives it life. It makes people want to actually go for it and check it out and see what it's all about. And as long as you keep that, I feel like it's gonna take you really, really far. I really do.
I
Don't
appreciate
don't
that.
change that at all.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. It means a lot.
So one of the other things that I want to say is your answer reminded me of the way that I grew up. So my grandmother, I was raised by my grandmother on my dad's side. And a lot of people knew my grandmother. Long story short, a lot of people knew my grandmother. And through my grandmother, people started to know me because I was the only grandchild that she was actually taking care of. The other grandchildren would come over and visit, we play around, have our fun, but I was the only one that she was actually taking care of. So a lot of things that she was doing to help the community, to help people out, all the firemen, the waste management, the police officers, a lot of people really knew who my grandmother was. And she was always doing things to help other people, including family members. And I took that and adopted that into my life. And it was something that sparked me and showed me that okay, this is your true calling. Grandma is showing you your true calling without even telling you this is what you should do. Because she never said this is what you should do. She always said that I do this because of this. I do this because of that. I do this for that reason. I do this for this reason. And when she would say those things, it made me feel some type of way on the inside. And I would always want to go out and help people and do things. But I had to figure out how do I help people versus the way she helped people. Because the way she helped people was more of the giving, giving, giving. But the way that I help people is more of the or I'm actually a relationship coach as well. So I actually help people to build stronger relationships. And I learned that that right there is my gift. So when I'm doing these things with people, it's always coming from the heart. And I love it. I love it. I love hearing people come back to me and tell me what their results are. Even if it's negative, tell me what the results are, because that gives me the opportunity to see if you actually applied it correctly or if I needed to add something or take something away from it in order for you to be successful in your relationship. And I
Yeah,
love
no, that's powerful. I love that. I think that's really important. And I hear what you're saying. It's like you're just getting the feedback because people aren't just like you're giving it to them and they're just walking away. Like either way, if they're coming back to you, what I got from what you said was like essentially like they like I need to tell I need to tell you something. Like I am intrinsically motivated because they I don't want to say that they're looking for your what your approval, but you help them, you inspire them. So when people are coming back with something that's not working, they're wanting to seek more advice for why. So the fact that you have people coming and doing, and I could see that myself, you really have the heart. And I think that's the biggest thing too, is that you got to follow your own path, right? Everyone has their own path, and I see it with my kids, right? Like my older one versus my younger one, totally two different personalities. I love it. The younger one wants to be like the older one. I tell my younger son of two boys, tell my younger one, I'm like, nah, like be you, do you do that, right? And a lot of parents, I don't judge, push their kids into sports, do all this. Like, I don't do that. I feel like in the beginning I might have done it, but like I just go back to like you gotta sometimes let people follow their own path and eventually they will. And it may not be the right path, but then you live and learn and you course correct. But if you don't have that autonomy to figure out what you want to do, then it's never going to happen. But I think that that's really important, is to literally live from your heart and
it.
understand that everyone has their own. It's a hero's journey. It's I forgot the book. I want to read the book, but it's like a hero's journey, like 1,000 miles, and it's basically this whole essential thing that you have to find your own way, and like your mistake makes you a stronger person. And I think about everything, even culminating up into this very moment where you and I are kind of just chatting. I kind of
Mhm.
look at that, right? I wouldn't be able to be chatting with you about this if it wasn't for everything else in the past. So,
Hey, that is so true. That is so true. And I like the way you said that. I actually ask my children the question when they see someone else doing something. I ask them, I say, is that something that you want to do? Or is that something that you want to do only because you saw someone else doing it? And when I ask them that, they kind of sit back and look at me like, okay, Dad, is this really a question that I'm ready for? Why are you asking me this question? But I let them know I want you to keep the wheels turning, because
yeah,
as long as those wheels are turning, then I know that you're seeking something, you're seeking answers, you're seeking an opportunity, and you're seeking to identify who you really are.
absolutely, 100%. That to me, that's what it's about. 1,000%. There's no question. Absolutely.
And that's what I want from them. I want them to identify who they really are.
Oh yeah, 100%. That's really what it's about.
Let's not be looking to be like someone other than yourself. Or
Oh,
let's
that's all any of us can be.
exactly.
That's all any of us can be. Absolutely.
Motivation is one thing, but are you motivated by what's actually going on, or are you motivated by what you think is actually going on? So you got to get the truth, and it has to be 100%. If it's not 100%, then you're not getting the truth. You're only doing something just because someone else done it.
Right, which is I mean, it starts something, but it's not going to get you too far. Absolutely.
Not at all. Not at all. And I love things like this because, for one, it actually helps me to see the difference in how my child thought about something at one point, and then how they're actually thinking about it at the next point in their lives. Like, wow, okay, I remember Dad asked me this question, so let me make sure that I'm doing this because this is for me and not doing it because someone else is doing it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it's funny that you bring up kids, and I think I love, like, I love seeing things through a child's eyes because they have so much curiosity, and all about everything is play. And I feel like I'm like a big kid at heart, and and that is something that's really important to me with my kids, and even my coaching, right? That is really what kind of differentiates my coaching style from a lot of what's out there, because one of the things that adults forget about is play. So I call it deliberate play. I call it the infinite game. But the truth of the matter is that if you can live life and gamify it, so to speak,
Hmm.
I'm not saying that you don't care, but if you look at it from that perspective, you can actually literally get through, defy barriers
You can. You can.
and excel a lot quicker. And, I always observe my kids, but that's what I try to do in my coaching is that I think there's a lot of coaching out there and it's very raw, but it's very like, it's very different. And I try to make it fun and engaging. To me, user engagement's everything. And I know that because I'm the person who could get bored so easily.
Yeah.
So for me, what is it something that will motivate me that will keep that sort of continuity? Because
Hmm.
100% that's me in a nutshell. So to me, that's why I say kids, because kids love it. They have all this energy, but adults stop it from that perspective. But what happens is when you come from a childlike mindset for an adult or you bring that back, it's amazing what someone even at 55 or 60 can do that they
Yeah.
never even thought they could do. And there's tons of science studies, not to get into it now, but there's a lot of things that actually have science to it where it could even increase the longevity of someone. So just kind of segueing into that's kind of, when you said kids too, I thought about that as well. Like curiosity is a very powerful motivator. I think people get curious, but they either use too much of it. It's like, well, they say drink in moderation, right? I'm not saying wake up in the morning, have a glass of bourbon unless it's your vacation, right? Or maybe have a glass of wine at night, everything in moderation, but like the same with curiosity. Some people are like, no, I don't have time, but like, no, you need to have time. Like, you need to give time for yourself despite X.
Mhm.
So, like I said, and if you messed up and today was a bad day, you wake up, tomorrow's a better day, and so on and so forth. And eventually you completely do a massive reset on that. So,
Exactly. Oh my goodness. Yeah. You definitely said a mouthful.
absolutely. So,
A lot of what that was one of the things that I taught in my relationship coaching. I just recently had a couple who was having some problems and things of that nature. And I told her, I was like, it sounds like you guys have no fun. And she was like, no, 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 no. Don't get me wrong. We do have fun. I said, so how do you have fun? She's like, we go out, we do this. I said, no, that's not what I'm talking about. That's not what I'm talking about. It sounds like you guys have no sense of humor towards one another. Like have fun with one another, play, be silly for once, go back to being a child for like 20 or 30 minutes or so. You know what I'm saying? And then go back and tell each other how much fun that was after
oh,
you get,
absolutely.
you know.
1000%. And that's why I said, going back to that whole, like during that championship, when I said it's just like a school catch because you're not, it is the finals, but it's not the finals. If you win, great. If you lose, great. Like it doesn't matter. And then when you really come from that mentality, you'll actually do better than you literally thought. And then when
Exactly.
you start coming from a place of like nervousness and all that stuff, you kind of lose that. So it's a dance, but yeah, I think, I think that's important. And I think people lose that. So that's what I kind of try to teach in my program is
Mhm.
important of teaching the science, but understand the gamification. Why do we like games so much? So like you're doing it without doing it. And to me, that's what it's all about. So who's to say that like the kid in you dies? It should never die. And
Exactly.
that's what I'd love to do is for people that may not have it is reignite what they may have lost and at least help people and again just be that call to service, absolutely.
Exactly. So I was reading on your profile where you talked about comprehensive training um, catalyze your transformation. In what way did that happen?
Yeah, for you mean for just for myself in general?
Mhm.
Yeah, so I think, like I said, it was that course, and it was called the Flow Research Collective. I started with a book, and the course, it was definitely a long shot. I mean, it was a huge investment, but it was like that. It was that investment that was worth it. But I think that's really what catalyzed it because it actually started before that. I think I read a book called Atomic Habits by James Cleary, but again, it talked about the science of habits, and it talked about like neuroplasticity and really what goes on in the brain. And I think that had it not been for that course, I wouldn't be talking to you right now. I wouldn't be on this path of being nowhere near in a million years did the old Adam 5 years ago think I'd be here right now. Um,
Mhm.
but I think the biggest thing to it is that what always held me back was me. And I was like, it was having a pity party for myself, saying that no way I could be an Elon Musk, or no way I could do that, because like they were born with a gift that I didn't have. But then
Mhm.
as you start really getting into the science, and I really kind of like, if you think about Superman 1 or 2, when he went back to like his secret cave for like 3 years,
Yes.
and he
Yes.
like journeyed, he had to seek his soul searching again. He lost his powers or whatever. I felt like that's kind of me. Like I went through this during COVID, and I went through this program, and no one really knew about it at the time. And I, like I said, I think that's really what catalyzed it, was knowing that, understanding the science, knowing that I literally can do everything. I can, and knowing that I actually do have, I could self-coach. And I think that's what got me into coaching. It wasn't, I think coaching really, to be honest, was purely selfish for me. Like I
Mhm.
said, part of that edge was I love flow. I love understanding it. So that is my passion. It's really cool knowing that, to be a quote unquote flow junkie. And then I was like, no, like I want to continue this. I don't know what I'm going to do it with yet, but it's something. I don't know what it is. Just like when Mark Zuckerberg at the time created Facebook, he's like, I
Mhm.
don't know. It's face. I don't know what it is. So I knew I could do something with it, but I knew that, like, to me, people think of coaching as I need to be a coach, which isn't true. You could be a coach and be a business leader, and people don't realize that every day they coach. So I think
Yes.
at the time that was my path, but then I got back to the fact that I do want to coach, and that is part of what I want to help other people on, is that I want to I'm in the process of creating a program that kind of raptures all this stuff up,
Mhm.
um, and really kind of translates it into a program where you could either use it for coaching, or understanding that it's not a waste, but like you're using these things for the office, you're using that.
Mhm.
So that's the long-winded answer, that I think that's really what catalyzed it, was again this whole concept of understanding what, again, based on the mission, is really what is the science of like really what goes on in your brain during
Mhm.
those moments of when you're performing at your best. And
Okay.
it happens for many of us, just like you and everyone. You have these moments where you're like, yo, I'm in the zone. And I'm sure you earn it now, I could tell. Um, and we all have it. We have to. That's the way we were built. If we weren't, we wouldn't be here. And that's how, as human beings, we evolutionize. And that's how we do it. And again, that's part of my program, is evolutionary biology and psychology. But that's a bit, like I said, those intrinsic parts happen to us very unconsciously. So it's really bringing out the intentionality to bring out people's awareness and understanding that there are preconditioned triggers, what they are. And some of them people know about. Like one of them is clear goals. And then there's other ones that people may
Right.
not know about, like risk, and a whole other, like there's like there's 12 that were proven that, if depending, it's not like if you have two, you're not in flow, but the more you have, the more it's there. So
Mhm.
the whole concept is that by understanding that, and understanding what those triggers are, you can essentially, you can untap it on demand at any point you want. So again, using Michael Jordan or Tiger Woods, what are they doing? They may not sometimes know, and that's what I'm doing, is I'm bringing that out. And like I said, they're really 12 or 13 different triggers, and really it's learning about it. That's what catalyzed me, was this whole idea of the science of flow. And part of my programming or coaching is to understand what these 12 to 14 triggers are. And essentially I train you up on each of them. I also train you on where you're compensating, where you might be using more risk than you are other things. Now risk is a flow, that is a motivator. If you are driving and you're like, yo, I want to race against my friend, you are going to be in the zone. It is. And
Mhm.
that is, so it's just understanding that these are just inevitable triggers. So it's learning, what are you using, what are you not using? And that to me is what I define as strengths and weaknesses. So when
Mhm.
people say, what are your strengths and weaknesses? I really do it in the context of flow. What are your strengths and weaknesses in flow? Because, like I said, there is science where there's 14 preconditioned triggers. And I
Mhm.
really try to understand what your strengths and weaknesses are, but then
Right.
ultimately getting it back to that idea of flow. Because the concept of flow, essentially what happens is that it's moments of rapt attention where essentially time dissipates. And what's
Mhm.
going on in the brain, if I could kind of spit some science right now, is that essentially what's happening is that your prefrontal cortex shuts down.
Mhm.
So all those thoughts that you have completely shut off. But the reason that it's always on is because of what we call the amygdala. So when I'm defensive, you're there. But why do you have an amygdala? Because 3,000 years ago, you needed that to defend off of people. If you left your cave, you left your tribe, yo, you were fighting for food, you were fighting to the death. So
Yes.
the life rate was there. But guess what, though? That's the ancient brain. And the brain 3,000 years ago is the same as what we have now. The problem is that hardware is not in alignment with society now, with artificial intelligence and all that stuff.
Oh
So
yeah.
that's what I try to do, is really optimize that. And the brain, I find that when you start, at least for me, what was happening is when I was like, oh my God, the aha moments. And I felt like what was really going on for me, at least, was my brain was like, oh wow, like it just was mapping easily to me. And what I was figured out from that is that that's what I needed, or that's what my brain needed, to know that our brains really function on a very simplified level. But unfortunately, the psyche is very powerful. Our brain is astonishing. The question is, what end of it do you want to be on? Do you want to let your brain control you, or do you want to control it? So
Exactly.
that's what I basically teach, is how do you control it? How to control it is understanding the science. I think that a lot of coaching starts at purely the psychological level. And I don't knock therapy or any of that. I think therapy serves a purpose. I think that people also didn't believe in coaching for a long time. I think from Tony Robbins, a lot of people thought it was shams. From a neuroscience perspective, the reason that we are here now and it's changed was that in the 80s and the 90s, it was very much in life coaching. And I could send you this timeline, but I'd say like in the early 2000s, it was around that time with Tony Robbins. But then it was around like '07 or '08 or '09 where, again, it was a secret science. People didn't want to give up where their success was coming from. No one wanted to. So like, eventually people were coming out. One person came out, everyone was coming out. It was like everyone's coming out to like explain it. But where we are today is that we actually have science to go under it. We can actually go under the hood, God forbid, of someone who's autistic or someone who is really like an athlete, and understand what is going on in real time. We didn't have that technology then. I mean, there's new things that are coming out literally in this last month. And, I'm talking to the owners right now. I always try to understand. I try to get ahead of it just for my business and understanding it. But like you can wear this, it's called the Tripilot. I forgot what it is, but it's this band where it'll actually like measure your flow rate. So it's based on like it's heart rate variability and all these different metrics, but like you'll actually know when you're in flow. So that's another metric. But that's my point, is that that's how we're able to understand it. And I think that's really, again, what it is, because I'm an evidence-based person. I can't do that. And for a while, I did psychological, like most of coaching that we have today is psychological. But for me, it just wasn't doing anything. And then when I did science, it was like science was like the technical ingredients of your brain. So when you understand that a key part of motivation is dopamine, well, there's reasons why you don't want to focus. It's because you could have lack of dopamine. If I've been on my phone 100 times from Sunday, I'm losing that dopamine because I'm getting a dopamine squirt. I'm doing that. So, like intrinsically, if I said to you right now, don't go on your phone for 2 hours because most likely you'll focus more. If someone said that to me, that doesn't do anything. But when I understood the science behind why, it's because I was preserving my dopamine levels. So if I'm preserving my dopamine, every time I'm looking at a notification, I'm like getting that dopamine. So by the time I'm ready to get back to work, I lose that intrinsic motivation. So
Right.
by upping the scale of it, and by not like getting into your addiction or social media or looking at your phone,
Mhm.
invariably you're actually preserving your neurochemistry. So
Oh.
for me, at least, understanding that
Hmm.
was huge. And what happened as a result, intrinsically, I don't go on my phone as much when I'm working. I literally put it aside, and it just doing that, like the little things you do, don't realize it can make a bigger difference in the long run. People don't realize. People are like, oh, it's a little thing. No, it's most likely the little thing you shouldn't be doing. And then stopping that little thing is the reason that big results will happen at the end of the day.
Yes, indeed. That is so true. So one of the things that one of the questions that I have is, at some point, people have to start somewhere. So what are some of the processes that you, or the techniques that you actually use to help people start their building process in order to get them to where you need them to be, or to get them to where they're trying to go?
No, that's a great question. Thanks for asking that. So I think the first thing is really getting into first, I guess, understanding flow. But I think first it's really understanding people's baselines. But I think it's getting to understanding about the whole concept of distraction and really kind of what I call lubricating your life in the fact that what are things that you can automate, understanding about this concept of cognitive load. I
Mhm,
think that if you've never really had coaching or if you've never done it, I think
mhm,
that's really the basics is starting with that. A lot of people don't find it fun and they're like, no, I want the flow. Because
right,
flow really, I'm not just saying it, but it really is the ultimate superpower. And a lot of other people market it as such. I don't, but like, unless someone else can prove to me, every single result that people had in the Olympics was because of being in flow, being in that state. But before we get there, there are other things that need to do. So I think majority of that is the distraction and really understanding what is it that you can do in your life to kind of sort of get rid of that. And a lot of it is understanding about technology addiction and like I said, like things about focus and things that you can do to sort of just understand those things. And then once we do that, I think then that second part is really understanding about goal setting. Actually, no, goal setting kind of happens a little bit later on. But again, I think it's really like that it's really like how do we maximize productivity? But unfortunately, there are things that you need to go through before even doing that. If you can't do those little things, then we're not going to be able to do the fun stuff, right? So at the end of the day, you need to crawl before you walk and walk before you run. And that's really this whole concept of peak performance. I call it high performance, but even the Navy SEALs, they actually take this training as well.
okay,
And this whole entire program that I actually take or is inspired by the Navy SEALs, very much so. And that's what you learn. It's compound interest over time. It's little wins that you get every day, knowing that what is the definition of done at the end of every day? What are your wins? And I think that if you could do that successively over time, you'll wake up. And I think a lot of people don't do that because they want the big win. They want the instant gratification. So what
right,
happens is nothing gets done. They feel debilitated. They wake up 5 years from now, whether it's self-sleeping the entire time and saying, "Oh shit, what happened to my life?" But it's
mhm,
what you do every day. If you don't instill those habits or instill that framework, then you're
mhm,
not going to get it, right? So that I'd say that, like I said, getting back to your question, I think that would be the first step is really the productivity piece of it. Like I said, really getting clear on cognitive load. What is your cognitive load? Understanding what it does to the brain, and then we kind of build from there.
awesome. So let me ask you this. What part of your coaching techniques become personal to you? Because I know that a lot of people who put their heart into things, some portion of what they're doing becomes personal to them. And I don't mean personal in the sense where you start getting all emotional and things of that nature. I mean personal in the sense where it makes you want to keep going. What part of that makes you want to keep teaching people and coaching people and helping them?
In like, what are the like just clarifying your question? You mean like what are the things that I just like for myself? Like what aspects of my coaching do I enjoy the most? You're saying?
Basically, yep.
Yeah, I think again, it's really going to the neuroscience of it. I think that speaking it from that is what keeps me going. I think people really get a lot of curiosity. And when I talk about flow, people don't know it. And when they don't know it, it's even better because I'm like, oh, I think you're going to be interested. Either you're not, you're not. If you're not, I can't force you. But I think it's really the science. I think that the reason that people have that aha inspired moment is like, yeah, no shit, I've done those things. It's not helping. So again, by learning about it from a neurochemical perspective, you're realizing that also to be a leader, well, how does leadership play into science, neuro leadership? And there is a guy, I think Tracy Rock, who did it. So I study neuro leadership as well.
Mhm.
And excuse me, one of the things with neuro leadership is that it is important, the science of it, because if you understand the basic needs of a human being, but from a scientific level, you'll
Right.
actually have a better job managing that person.
Mhm.
So, like understanding different things like status. I forgot the model now. It's racking my brain, but like there's a basic model where it talks about the basic primal needs of a human, but it's a leadership model, but it's understanding that like status is a very big one. Why is status a biological motivator? Well, you needed that. What happened in the 1800s? There was status. In the animal kingdom, there is status. The
Yes.
Lion King, no pun intended, their status, apes, right?
True.
Silverback gorillas, their status, right? They're gonna fight for their mates. There are, whether you know it or not. So
Yes.
that's to me is a cool thing is to learn that. So when you see what's going on underneath it, I think it's for me, it's like my superpower because I feel like I know I can do everything. So like if I walked in a room with like 1,000 people and you did as well, unconsciously, I think that what happens is you're going to be like, all right, who's the top dog? It's inevitable. If you see someone with Gucci shoes, what now? And then you could say like jealousy, like, oh man, I don't want to tell someone that like maybe this guy, like I think this guy's stronger than we all do it. But guess what? That's part of life. That's competition. If you didn't have that, that's just how we were built. Competition, survival of the fittest. The reason again, that's all starts from 3,000 years ago. I never knew all that. I always thought it was me, and I'm like always jealous. But then when I go into a room with 3,000 people, the cockiness in me where I really enjoy is like, you got nothing on me. You got shit. Because I know that you don't know what I know, but I know that, yeah, you are stronger, but I could outlap your ass. I can outlap your ass in a heartbeat if I really wanted to. And people think I'm a bit cocky, like my boss thinks that. But like my point is that that is my secret cloak that I walk around with every day because of the training that I've invested into. And treating and I want to help other people feel that same way that how I walk around the world. That's how I want other people as well. And I want them to understand what's going on. And I want to give people the skills that I learned. Unfortunately, look, I went to college, I got my BA in communication, was in advertising, went back to grad school, I went for my MBA. There's no question that my entire school tuition, which I'm still paying off, is like $300,000.
Yeah.
But yo, like school doesn't really also provide you with life, right? So that's the biggest thing that I tell people is that you like that's the one thing that college and education is lacking is like you're spending $200,000 for what? And I had to learn all of this the hard way. So like I in my program I have many different groups. Like I actually do at some point. Yes, right now it's targeting people that are emerging leaders and all that stuff, but I do want to actually at some point coach college students, kids that are about to go out in the real world and
Mhm.
teach them things. Because the biggest thing that I heard from people, even for people that do study this, was only if I learned this in college, only if I learned this when I was 18. I
Mhm.
just say to myself, the reason I'm even happier is that it's not about me anymore. It's about my family. It's about my two kids. So what's cool about it is that I could teach them these things that they won't have to worry about. That's
Right.
also what's cool about being a coach is that I have parenting and things that I can instill on them when they get older, just because I know it works, right? So that is what is cool. And that's also what inspires me, knowing that I have this gift that I can instill on my children and then they could use it as well. And I only say that because, like I said, I've gone through it all. And I'm not, and again, I'm at the top of my game, right? I work I work at a very big firm. I got everywhere I wanted. And then when you want it, you're like, well, I never thought I'd want to be coaching, but I got there for a reason, right? And that's still not enough because there's a certain way that you still need to conduct yourself to get there. And I think there are a lot of people who are smart, but what happens is, so in let's just say in the banking world, there's like four different levels, but it goes like it goes like director, executive director, managing director, and then CEO, whatever. But the thing about it is that some people who are very smart, let's say in the corporate world, and I'm just using those levels, there could be other levels, stay there. But
Mhm.
the reason they don't move up is because of them. It's because they think they've hit this peak and now it's like, now what? And that's where my coaching comes in. It's like you really like it's for anyone at any level, but when you're literally living at an 8 to 10, that's
Mhm.
where I come in. And you could read a book, but I'll get you there a lot quicker because I've read all the books and I read and I do all this. But you're going to get my brain for 2 years. And a lot of it's my credentials that I do have that make it different. And that's what I want to do. And that's really what makes my program very different than others is just my experiences. A lot of coaches, they do it full time, but they don't remember how it is to be in the field because I work full time. Everything that I do and everything that I study, I also practice on myself. So they're all time tested stuff, and that's how I know they're good.
So awesome. It doesn't get any better than that when you have things that you've actually done on yourself. Like, take for example, all the advice that I give people for relationship coaching. is things that I've personally experienced myself or things that I've watched people go through. And I would ask them, how did they actually get through this particular process that they went through, be it negative or positive, it doesn't matter. I still want to know, how did you get through it? Now, the the funny part is when you catch someone while they're angry, they give you one answer. But when you catch them when they calm down, you get a whole totally different answer. And
Oh
it's
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, sometimes they say the truth comes out when you're angry, and maybe that's like that's I don't want to say the evil side. That's like your alter ego, so to speak. But yeah, 100%. And then you're in a different mood. But that's why they always say, like, think for 24 hours before you say it. But yeah, I mean, again, that's part of that neurochemistry. That's all that cortisol, all those things that are going on, because I know there's more than that, but we were built and there's the three F's. And I know there's four. But you know what the three F's are? Fight, flee, and fuck.
yeah.
Right? Fuck, because we are here. When you're attracted to someone, that's the primal part of reproductivity.
Mhm,
Flee. Well, what if a bird comes to my head? I'm gonna flinch, or a car. You have to protect yourself. Fight. Well, you're gonna fight. You're gonna protect your family. I know there's a fourth F in there, but like from a very primal feeling, those are the three things that go on. So
mhm,
people that don't understand any of this, that's what it means, because we have these primal instincts. So when you
right.
don't understand them, your biology will just take over, just like when a bird flinches. Why? So when you start understanding these things, I call it the 80-20 rule, where it's like what I really say, and part of that mission statement that wasn't there is here's the other part of it.
Mhm,
It's learning how to leverage your biology and neuroscience to maximize maximum improvement. Because
yes.
when you understand it, and what I mean by that is like getting 8 hours of sleep. I can tell you that because you were told, mom and dad told you that 20 years ago, grandma, whomever, um, told you that. But if I understand the science and everything with everything else that I coach, most likely that person will have a higher probability of doing that. And I'm not going to lie, I'm still a night owl and I try to do my best. But my point is that that's an example of it. So like, even when you wake up in the morning, right? I'm guilty of this too. I don't want to do my hardest task. I want to check my emails. I want to do this. But if you, and they're different people. If you're an entrepreneur, but you can wake up at 11 o'clock, 11 a.m.
Mhm,
You have more sleep and you do your best work at night, then do the hardest thing at night. But
yeah.
chronologically, right? This is what I mean by biology, meaning inevitably we all have a cycle. So your body knows when it's morning, your body knows when you're hungry, and your body knows at night. Again, all built based on a very primal evolutionary psychology. So when you understand the science behind why you want to do the hardest thing first, then you'll be more intrinsically motivated, not it's like if I said, "Oh, just make a decision. Do I do
Mhm,
the easy thing or hard thing?" But doing that hard thing and understanding the science behind that is a
mhm,
huge game changer that people don't realize. Like doing that, if I explain to people why you should go on an email diet and you're losing less distraction because of the science on that,
yeah.
email 3 times a day, you may most likely be more preconditioned to do that. Now, granted, in the corporate world, it's hard because that's expected. Check your email every 2 seconds. But in general, I'm just saying that by informing more people of these things and educating people, it could be very transformative. It could be very empowering. And
Yes.
again, understanding the science behind it, then we build up the psychology and then we build up the protocols. Because at the end of the day, coaching with anything else is doing that thing to get you that thing. So
Mhm,
people try to start with that, but that's not what it is. You got to start with the very basics of science and we build you up from there. And that, like I said, that's really what I think makes my program and my coaching style very different than others. And also because, like I said, I
mhm,
incorporate gamification and I do a lot of fun things where it's like, hey, we're gonna go on a quest together, right? We're gonna understand how to decode neuroscience and all that fun stuff, like the Da Vinci Code. That's my thing, and that's what I'm about. And whoever's with me, to me, it's important. It needs to be a two-way street, right? If I don't think I could coach you, then it's not gonna work. But I don't
right.
want people to be on the fence. You're either in it or you're not. But like I think that most people will enjoy it, but you got to also, there's a will that has to be there as well in order to do this level of work.
Yes,
So
indeed. I totally agree with you on that. You gotta have the will, because without will, there's no ingenuity, and you gotta have that will and that ingenuity to play a part together. It's kind of like one of the previous podcasts when I talked to one guy. I told him, I said, your um, your passion ignites your purpose. So if you're passionate about something, that gives you that spark to actually go ahead and get it started. But your purpose is always there. It's always in whatever you're passionate about. It's just at some point, whatever you're passionate about kind of fades away, but you still have your purpose for whatever it is that you're supposed to be doing in life. Your passion, your purpose never goes away. Your passion may change from one thing to the other thing, but
Right.
your purpose never goes away. It's always there, regardless of what you're doing.
So can I add to that as well? Because I
Sure.
think your viewers will really like this right now, and whoever hopefully is watching, and I think you'll like it too. So with goal setting, there is a biological, and I'm going to say there's a biological mechanism that's connected, and this was researched. So to
Mhm,
add a bit more to what you do, and again, this is a big part of my coaching, is that you're going to understand it in a second, and then I'll explain the neurochemicals. But you have to have that curiosity, right?
mhm,
Who just notified? Who just texted me? Let me check it. So you have
mhm,
to have that curiosity, right? Curiosity is not enough, but the curiosity leads to your passion.
mhm,
Okay, your passion leads to your purpose, right?
mhm,
Your purpose, you need autonomy. Yeah, you need to have your autonomy to follow your purpose. And then
mhm,
once you have your autonomy, that leads to mastery. So when
mhm,
all of those things are in sync, that's what's important. Now, the neurochemicals behind that, like curiosity is dopamine. There's tons of stuff in there. Now, curiosity, a great exercise, if I encouraged you or anyone to do right now, if you're
mhm,
like, what's your passion? You know what's really under passion? I would say to anyone, take out a piece of paper, write, it doesn't matter what it is. I don't care if it's money or anything. Write down the 25 things that you're most curious about.
mhm,
25 things. And then take a circle and see where they overlap. I guarantee you, you're going to have a theme. If you thematize 3 or 4 more of those, that
mhm.
equates to passion.
I like that. I like
Right?
that.
That's another part of it. So passion, there's tons of neurochemistry there. And the thing about purpose, and you said you don't have it, another way of describing that, which is true, is oxytocin. So part of the bonding chemical that happens with your family or anyone is oxytocin. Part of where that purpose really has to be aligned is your oxytocin. Because what happens is your life, your world feels balanced. So there is a combination of both neurochemistry and oxytocin. And then that's where that bonding is. So when someone says they're really like right now, I think I'm living there.
Mhm,
And it's hard sometimes, but that's because my passion, my curiosity and passion are very much aligned because what my passions are, I'm actually living it in real time. I am. So
right.
I know that. So right now when I wake up, I'm sure of that. And then my passion aligns to my purpose and I have that oxytocin. I know where that is. It's
Mhm,
hard. I'm not saying it's easy, but the reason I could tell you that is because for me, when I do this, like right now talking to you, I'm
mhm,
in I'm in a flow state right now. I know that. And that's why, like I said, when you're in flow, you have a better chance of learning. Skills acquisition goes up. So when you go to that path to mastery, you're studying, the reason you could ace that exam the next day is because you were in flow and your
mhm,
mind is actually able to absorb. But if you're distracted, I'm not saying that you can't pass your exam, but again, it's all about the law of averages and probability. By understanding these things, you'll do it better. So, anyways, for your viewers to kind of go on topic, that's my little sort of tactic is like I said, the curiosity. I call it the passion principle, but essentially that's like I said, to me, that's just understanding that alone is a huge game. That was for me, that really kind of changed my life in more ways than one. Absolutely.
and it changes everybody's lives once
Absolutely.
they start to get involved. Because you have to get involved in order to see that change, or in order for that change to start, you have to get
Oh,
involved.
absolutely.
Because if you're never going to get involved, then you're pretty much just wasting life, and
Oh
it's not
yeah.
fair to you. It's not fair to other people who could have actually been, doing something else with that space that you're preoccupying. It's not fair.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely, without a doubt.
I mean, we got to be fair to life. We got to be fair to ourselves, and we got to
Absolutely.
be.
Absolutely.
So, tell me something. Um, how long have you had the desire to help other people?
I think, yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think I always did, right? I always enjoyed like just helping people. I think that there was a bit of like um power, like a leadership there. Like always, like I felt like by me helping someone, there was the confidence that I knew something. So I
Mm,
think that at a very early age, anytime I ever helped someone, it made me feel confident knowing that I knew something enough. I can't really teach someone something if I don't know it. So right
mhm,
there, I'm getting the confidence and a lot of neurochemistry from it. And
mhm.
that's really what it was. So I'm not saying selfish, but that was a pre-motivator for a lot of people. And then I think the second part was really knowing that by be helping people, I actually now have a gift and have something. If you're willing to, right? I mean, I could say there are tons of people out there who have no desire. And look, that's great. You do you. If you have your own way of doing it, fine. But at least if you were to be open to my way, you'll get it a lot quicker. And I know that because I've seen the results firsthand.
Yes, indeed.
Just matter of fact.
Yes, indeed. And that's a blessing because a lot of times people are at a point in the beginning before they even come to a conclusion that, hey, I need to help other people. They're always going through something. They went through something bad, or they went through um, some parts of their life where they just didn't understand what was going on or why certain things were happening to them. And then after something happens or after a particular situation is when they start saying, hey, you know what? I overcame this and I think that I can help other people overcome it too. So it's always a trigger, basically what I'm saying, that actually triggers some people in order to say, hey, now I want to actually help other people. But it doesn't mean that they're actually ready to help other people. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Well, yeah, absolutely. It has to be there. Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. Absolutely.
And so we want to be careful with saying that we want to help other people, not saying you or I, because we've gone through things that we know that this is our zone. This is the zone that we're in and been in for quite some time, you
Yep.
know. But some other people who just come into their zone or thinking that this is their zone and it may not be, try it out for a little while and then see if it's something that's actually fit for you. Don't just jump into it and think that you're going to be successful. Let's not go that route because that's a
Absolutely.
way to go.
Oh, 100%. That's what it's about. Absolutely.
That's a horrible way to go. I really.
Absolutely.
So I also was looking at where you said you mastered the art of minimizing distraction and avoiding redundant tasks. How was that possible? What were some of the things that you did to do that?
Yeah, no, that's great. And like I said, if anything that I could do to help your viewers and just the world, I'd say minimize distraction. Like I said, it's the whole idea of what I call the dopamine detox. So it's the whole concept of what I said, that we try to get our fixes anywhere we can, that pleasure. And when you lose that, that's where the distraction really happens. But I think a lot of it really is how much you check your cell phone. Honestly, a real great tip, that is the 80/20 rule. Just take all the notifications off your phone. Facebook, Instagram, I do all of that. Because
Mhm,
that right there, your brain's attract, no matter what, your brain, oh shit, I looked at it. It doesn't matter. You've lost it. Why? Because your brain is there on radar. So when they say like focus and quiet, you will do better. You know that. So
mhm,
like having that off your phone actually is a huge game changer of like increasing that. So again, I think that's probably one. I'd say another way of decreasing distraction is, like I said, an email diet, predetermining how many times a day you could check your email. So giving yourself intentionality, check it once in the morning, check it once in the afternoon, check it once in the evening. I mean, I get things are important, but if setting the tone for that, I think is important as well. I think another part of minimum or maximizing productivity or less decreasing distraction is writing things down on paper. I think that our brain technically can only really hold three or four things at once.
mhm.
Anything more than that is considered a cognitive overload, and then
Yeah.
you'll get distracted. So by just writing clear goals down actually help out a lot. And
Mhm,
I always knew, like, take notes. I was like, fuck, man, I don't want to do this. But then when I understand the science behind it, I really started implementing it. I understood the why, right? When I was telling you that before we even
yes.
started, it's all
Mhm,
about the why, and that's what I do. And like I said, understanding the science of it, and that's the thing. Coaches kind of somewhat tell a similar message, but they're not really effectively demonstrating the why. And that's what makes mine different, to know that you'll effortlessly be able to do the thing you may not want to do without even knowing that you're doing it. So, like I
Yes.
said, I think writing down things, even the night before, writing down tasks of things you're doing the next day could be
Mhm.
really powerful. Try having at least no more than what I call dividing your day into like MITs, which is most important tasks, and LITs, which is least important tasks.
Mhm.
And the whole concept of it is that you really shouldn't have more than three hard things that you're doing. And that's really your definition of done. So, like, if you have any more, then you need to either, if you're an entrepreneur, lighten that load, or for
Mhm.
your boss, you need to set them straight and say, look, like, I could get these two things done, but not overload, because you're not going to be set for success. So, ideally, they say two or three things, and there's what I call the parking lot. So anytime things come up during the day, pause and just write it down. But like, but write down those notes, write down those things, get it out of your head. The more
Yes.
you do that, and that's the thing, is that we don't, and you're like, ah, I'll worry about that. But that's the point. It's the constant distractions in the emails. And when you start really disciplining yourself, understanding it, you're preserving that neurochemistry. And the reason I keep on saying preserving that neurochemistry is that if you think about Elon Musk and you think about what he's done and you think about it, those aha, I call the power of creativity. But to be creative, you need to have the neuroscience, right? You're not going to be. So when I say being in flow, or by me saying that, that's what it really comes down to.
Gotcha. Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. So definitely. That makes a lot of sense. So with the analogy for Elon Musk, how does that, like, let's say for example, certain things become, like some people would say certain things become second nature. So how would the second nature of that play into the science or into neurology?
Yeah, that's a really big part of what I do. And that's what I was saying with that whole passion curiosity ladder. So like that's really part of flow. So what you're saying about second nature is what I call doing it unconsciously,
Mhm.
right?
Okay,
You
okay, okay.
you drive a car,
Yes.
but you know how to drive. Imagine when I said, when did you first get your, imagine when you got your learner's permit, you didn't drive the way you did know how to drive. That's learning it unconsciously. So it's really what I call bringing things into your consciousness and then
Mhm.
putting it in your unconsciousness. So when you get to that point, or you ever feel, oh, that's easy.
Mhm.
2 years ago, you may have thought that's hard. Right
Yeah.
there, that's an indication of mastery. People don't get that. So it's
Mhm.
also important to know where you've been to know where you're going, because
Mhm.
knowing your accomplishments is also what is a key motivator. If you don't do that and you say like, fuck the last 30 years, you're not going to go anywhere. So it's important to know that growth, because that is kind of on the back end, your own internal, that's your own internal motivation you don't want anyone else to get to. That's like your fountain of youth. That's your mojo. That's your inner gold. That is the gold. You don't want anyone stealing that from you. So
Right.
knowing that, you don't need to tell people, but knowing that I think is important. But it's, to me, the path of mastery is the ability of bringing something from your conscious to your unconscious. So this whole concept of creativity, what it really is at the end of the day is pattern recognition. Essentially, it's your brain having two different disparate ideas coming together, and
Mhm.
you're like, haha, what's that moment? That's what
Right.
it is in a nutshell. So, like I said to you before, by minimizing, it all plays into it. By minimizing your distractions and all that stuff, you'll have a better chance of getting into creativity. So like writers never understand it, but it's not just like, let me shut my phone off, let me do that. But by really understanding the science of it,
Mhm.
by everything that I'm saying, someone could right now say everything that I have to say is a bunch of bullshit. But here's where it comes in, where what I'm saying isn't bullshit. You get to a point where life gets really complicated. You're going to get into a situation like the Navy SEALs where you have no idea what to do. What
Mhm.
happens in those situations is that your brain has to start innovatively thinking about what to do. Why? Because your brain's for survival mode. Once you start understanding once I started understanding the science of it, the things that were really complicated made life so much easier.
Right.
So what I look at that is that going into my unconscious. That's where all of it kind of lines up. So that's really the science of the unconscious, is that your brain is such essentially doing it automatically, where boom, you're getting into flow. So again, the science of the unconscious is, and there's a bit more involved, but it has to do with and I don't want to get the wrong science terms here, but it's like it has to do with like your campus and skills acquisition. So that's what it is. It's a lot of it's like the power of learning, the science of learning, reading books, understanding what that does. So that's where the science of the unconscious comes from, is knowing what is going on in your brain. So learning how to drive, that's stored in your long-term memory. If someone had a stroke or a coma, they lose those things because unfortunately there are preconceived conditions based on the mental dispensation they got from that, which is terrible. But in general, that's really what's going on. And that's why I say by understanding the science of it, you have more of a chance to increase learner and skill acquisition by that. I love that word, skill acquisition, because skills could be anything. Soft
Yeah.
skills, depends. But like I said, being in flow, that's where learning, that's what, because what happens during learning, if I were to ask you, do you remember certain parts of your childhood?
And
You remember them.
I
What
do.
most likely happened during them is that you were in a flow state, because those are so what happens during learning is that your brain is tagging something, and that's what's going on. So when you read a book, like when I read, I only go for dopamine hits. So anytime I read a book, and I learned this from Kotler, but Stephen Kotler, and what he kind of mentioned from that was that anytime you read something, you're like, oh shit, and you underline it, that's when you're actually learning. So like what a lot of people do during learning is they just start highlighting the shit out of everything, things that aren't important. So how do
Yeah.
you know what's
Yeah.
important? That's what it means by also building up your gut. If you have an aha moment, so like if there's anything that I've said that was an aha moment to you, tap into your unconscious and understand the why and the instinct. And that's what it means when it says, that's what I think that means by trusting your instinct, by understanding that aha moment. Those are like everything that I'm saying right now is what I mean by the source code of life. That's what I mean by being lucky to know that I'm 42, that I'm not going to go to my grave not knowing these things. That's what I
Exactly.
mean. It's the little things of knowing that. And that's what I mean by it's the little things that you're not realizing that make the most result. So when I just said that you get that aha moment and you're inspired by something that someone said, your
Mhm.
brain is learning. Your brain needs to learn, but it's because most likely too, your curiosity and passion are aligned. So that's the other reason why you do that exercise. Because the more that you are intentional and you really feel that way, the more learning is that you're focusing on goals and books that you want to read that are completely in your radar.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Woo-wee.
I
That is
know it was a
awesome.
lot, but I have like, but that, I mean, that's essentially it in a nutshell. But like when you, I guess in my mind, I know that's a lot. I guess because I've been doing this for a bit of time, it's like, I have to realize like someone's like, whoa, you're telling me a lot. And it's, I guess that's the one thing you learn. And that's why it's in my unconscious because, you know, but what I'm
You're
saying is
fine.
it's more
You're
simple.
fine.
But when you start understanding it, it's like your brain is a lot simpler than you realize. So that's why I'm saying that you try to learn the world, but when you do small bits of it and you really can, that's what I mean by writing and surfing your biology. So if you could study a month before, I never did that, right? If I now can explain it to my kids, hopefully when they go to high school and college and all that stuff, they will be intrinsically motivated. That's what I'm saying. Because, well, why did I do it a month ago? Because mom and dad told me you're not going to do that. That's not enough. And,
Right.
and you said something earlier. I do want to jump in and say something. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to monopolize, but you said something about willpower. See, that's the other thing that I teach is that willpower is not enough. Willpower will make you burn out. One of the things they say, and this is really kind of not leaving you with this, but like this is probably we could do this on another session. But one of the things they say is tap into your neurochemistry, save your willpower for last. But what they actually say is not willpower, it's grit. It's
Yeah.
knowing that you train at your hardest when you're at your lowest. So when you really want to learn, you tap into grit
Mhm.
because when you're really at your lowest, that's when you want to train because that's when you do it. So when
Yeah.
you're like exhausted, no, you want to push. When you do that extra push, you're
Mhm.
doing you're going and you're doing the thing. But
Yes.
that's why I don't like the word willpower. So what happens is if you don't know it, a lot of the stuff, or you're a layman without any knowledge of coaching or even neuroscience, most people are doing that. Well, no, study for an extra week. That's not going to help. It's going to help in the short term, but it's not really going to give you truly what you need. So
Uh,
that's why I believe in this whole concept of willpower, because like I said, people do it, right? So people naturally sleep for 8 to 10 hours. That's great. You might be doing these things where you are successful, but all of that is unconscious. But by understanding the science and the intentionality of it, you'll even get further than where you are. And that's the whole point, is that wherever your baseline is, I can, the program that I sort of inspire and do will even get you there bigger and faster and harder than you have before. And really testing your limits, the things that you've never done. And I say that because, like I said, I've done it firsthand, and I'm a product of it. So
Awesome. Awesome. Well, you definitely given us a lot of vast information about the neuroscience of quite a bit of things. And this is a blessing because a lot of my people, they look for certain things like this. They look for the things that are gonna help them to understand how certain thought processes work, brain power, finances. You know, my audience, they come from different walks of life, and some of them come from corporate America, and some of them have left corporate America and started doing their own thing, just take that leap of what they call that leap of faith, and it is working for them. So they found whatever it is that's gonna work for them. And the only reason why I understand a lot of what you're talking about is because I too have done some studies. I can't say that I've done any extensive studies, but I understand, but I've done some studies as far as neuroscience and things of that nature to have some form of understanding. Then majoring 4 years in psychology, you have to understand some form of neuroscience. Maybe not its full potential, but we do have to understand some form of it. And
absolutely.
it's a blessing to hear you saying and breaking down so many things about it, because it makes me want to actually continue to do more, to learn more, so that I can add this to my relationship coaching. And I definitely thank you for that from the heart. You know, just it's phenomenal. It really is. It's
My,
phenomenal.
I see, like even that, like you asked me a question earlier, and I see your eyes light up, and those are the true like knowing that I've inspired, that even keeps me going. You know,
Mhm.
and like I said, it's hard, but knowing that I could do that gives me the energy when I speak to other people. I thrive on it. So when I have like being a guest on your show kind of really helps me continue my mission. But like those are the true motivators I get. But yeah, I mean, look, any way that I can help, and that's the thing too. I think that part of learning, and again, I'll use the term skill acquisition to the path to mastery, and I mean mastery quicker, is to have a growth mindset. Some of the best people, I'm actually gonna give another little tidbit. You ready for this one? So
Ready.
there was an author, and she was, and I was on her training for a hot minute, but it was enough for me to capture what I needed to get from it.
Mhm.
And one, and actually heard this from two people, and they're actually two renowned neuroscientists, one at UCLA, Berkeley, and at Stanford. But one
Mhm.
of the things they said, and I do this, and this is what I mean by saying who's in the room and who's a top dog. And a lot of people, what they try to do is I call showboating.
Mhm.
But when they're in the room, they said they actually intentionally want to be the stupidest person in the room. And I was like, what? That's like a weird concept. Why? And that why is that? Because by have see, this is why you're laughing. By having a beginner's mindset, you're gonna learn more. When you hit that apex, like I know everything, you're gonna learn limitedly. So the book that she wrote was because of that. So every time she's learning and she takes notes, it's because I know that I'm learning more, and she's humbled to it. Everyone
Mhm.
else knows that what they know, but that's why she says she doesn't know, because someone else knows more. And that's the thing about writing. And that's one of the other things on my list too, on my bucket list, is to write a book. And one of the things I went through, of course, his course was called Flow for Writers. But one of the things he talks about is research. If you think you researched, you didn't research enough. He
Yeah.
said you need to research at least 4 to 6 people. But if you think you know everything, there's someone that knows more. And there's
Mhm.
someone that knows more. And that's why he basically said research the shit out of it. But if
Mhm.
you think that you read one book and you know it all, you know shit. And
Exactly.
that, and again, again, like a lot of my training, a lot of what I said was based on that. I didn't come up with it. And I'm not gonna take something that's not mine. Like I
Mhm.
said, I kind of ran with it, and I kind of grew it to my own thing and my own unique program. But like I said, going back to learning and stuff, like having a beginner's mindset of like, oh, I knew that, I knew that. Again, that to me is living in your 8 to 10. If you're living your 8 to 10, but you think you know it all and you're living in your apex, you don't know shit and you're not going to grow and you're not going to do that. Knowing that you can learn from other people and everything really does make a huge difference. Absolutely.
Definitely. Definitely. That is so true. So we coming to a close here. Give us something motivational to take us out.
Yeah. Oh man. Definitely like I said, I mean before that, like I said, I'll give you all my social media and all that stuff. My website's just finalizing, but something motivational. Oh man. Um, that's a tough one. I'm trying to get something like from my special good stuff, like my special treasure chest of things that I know about. I know we kind of covered them, but um, yes, I do have something. Here's a good one, and
Okay.
I'm learning. But lead from the heart, follow from instinct, no matter what you do every day. Because the more you do that, like that's how you really learn from your unconscious. So follow from your heart, knowing that it's okay to make a mistake, knowing that tomorrow's another day and you'll learn from it. But what happens is again, we have all these conflicts with our front brain, our amygdala. So like right now, I spoke from instinct because I figured that out. But by training up your instinct, that really is a path to mastery. So all the greats do that. So I think that really would be like something for everyone to do is like look up gut science, but really follow from your heart. We all do it. We have to. And if you think about it, we're born with this gift of instinct. And if you're able, we have to use it first of all to survive. Animals have it. We have
Yes.
to. So to me, living by this instinct is what I mean by the Pareto principle, which is the 80-20. What does that mean? You do 80% of, wait, I always do this. You do 80% of the stuff for you no 80-20. I'm sorry. You do 20% of the work to get 80% of the results. So
Yeah.
biology, we have all these things and we always end up doing the thing that we should do that we don't do. So when they always say the exam, follow instinct, part of that is saying to yourself, it's okay to get it wrong. And I've always known that would say, oh, tomorrow's another day sport. You'll wake up and do it. But that's what I mean by the science that there's your whole entire instinct is connected to neurons. But your instinct really, like when you drive, that's your instinct. But when you could start understanding that from that level and trusting yourself, I think the biggest thing is learning that every day is learning. You're gonna mess up. Even if I'm gonna tell people, even if you get fired, it's not the end of the world. Knowing that you'll find another job. Maybe it wasn't for you, right? And look, it's happened to the best of us. So, like I said, follow your instinct. Whatever happens in life, you learn from it, and you just got to keep on doing that. Tomorrow's another day, and you learn from that. You course correct. Course correct though through your instinct. If you could really use that, or if people could use that more, I think people will see a lot more improvement and listen to what your instinct says. And the reason your instinct may not do it is because they're not sharpening that moral compass more. So that would be, I'd say, the biggest thing to take everyone out. That would be the biggest thing that I'm learning too. But it's really following the heart and really building up that instinct. If you do that, it's again 20% little things of following your biology to get that 80% of results.
Oh my goodness. I truly love how you how you put that in motion, how you just implemented that whole thing and explained it and broke it down and then brought it back up. Like you just it's like it was already there. It's like just waiting to come out. That
Well,
was
and it's funny. It's funny you say that. I mean, again, one of the certifications I get. I'm actually a Lego coach, so I'm
oh
what we call a certified Lego serious play facilitator. That's a big, glorious, honestly name for saying that I just love building shit. No, but like my point is that you just said building, and that's how my mind works. But that's how I view life. Is it's all about building it up, but breaking it down. And before you get to that path to greatness, like an entrepreneur, you need to break that shit up. And I mean break it up. And if you need to break it up into like million million pieces,
yeah,
then you break that up into even a million more pieces. And then
yeah,
you will build it up eventually. And I think the biggest thing too, the last thing to take people out to is competition. I think that, and I do this as well. And again, it's part of competition. Again, it's the science. And to me, understanding the science of competition when I did it made me understand more of why I need to follow my path. But don't stop worrying about what other people paths are. Who gives a fuck?
For
Because
real.
those people may have, you don't know what's going on in their life, right? Someone who's rich could be on the verge of suicide. And I
Yeah,
don't wish it on anyone. I don't wish any of that, but
yeah.
it's like the gift of the magi, right? Your gift is actually your family and being blessed with that. But at the end of the day, like I said, I think that that to me is something to is something to truly understand. And I think sometimes people kind of fall short of that and
Hmm.
not really understanding the capacity of what that really means.
True that. True that. Sustain. 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 So let us know where we can actually reach you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So right now my website is being finalized. But I would say right now it's www.facebook.com. Is it forward slash? I always forget. Back no
Yeah.
forward slash inner
Flash.
X lab. And then I'm also on Instagram, www.instagram.com forward slash inner X lab. I'm
Ooh,
also producing some videos on YouTube, so be on the lookout for that.
ooh.
If you don't mind, I like this. I like this. See, I just learned that, but now I feel part of the group. So I
Yes,
feel
indeed. Yes,
like I'm an
indeed.
honorary member, and I hope this is not the last time that we do it. So there's that, and then also I guess to share with the group, I actually just won an award, and I became the 2020. It's the 2024 Pioneer Science Award that I've done for innovators. So I just
Oh,
won that. I just got issued that, and it's actually issued on the Associated Press. I'll send you all that information. So that's something that's very exciting to
right.
me that I work for. Thank you. And yeah, like I said, once the website, one of the things too is I'm always posting blogs, and being here really, I learned a lot. But one of the things that I'm also my takeaway that I got from being on here, I learned too. And one of the things I learned was just continue with this and knowing that I had so much fun and
Yes.
that just being a thought leader, doing the blogs and all that. So be on the lookout for that.
Yeah.
Definitely will send that to you and your viewers too. But I'm always producing stuff. So if you want the free stuff and whatever, call it free, whatever it is, it's my mission to help people. So definitely be on the lookout for that as well.
No
And
doubt.
which is awesome.
No doubt. Thank you so much. You have definitely been a true blessing to YTP Entertainment. I definitely thank you from the bottom of my heart. You know what I'm saying? My soul. And I definitely want to see more of what you have coming. We can't wait to see the new projects and when they actually start to launch. I'm ready for it. I'm ready.
Amazing. Well, listen, again, I just want to say thank you again for having me on your show and, opening me up to your viewers. Because again, that's also trust as well, right? You were telling me
Yes.
like that's establishment and people don't realize that. And, you're amazing as well. And you've grown that viewership for a while. So I do want to say thank you for taking a chance on me. And, like I said, hopefully I was able to kind of share some great stuff, good stuff with people. And like I said, I learned a lot from being on here as well. And yeah, hopefully this is the first of many. So yeah, definitely will keep you up to date on new things coming out. There's gonna be a whole series of stuff coming out in the next like 6 months. Don't want to tell everyone all of it. Definitely some things I haven't shared. I don't want to give away all the good stuff. I don't want to give away my entire playbook, but like just be on the lookout. There's gonna be a lot of other cool stuff coming on the horizon for sure.
Awesome, awesome. Well, everybody, definitely make sure that you follow Mr. Adam Levine. Check out his book. No, I mean, check out his sites. Check out Facebook. Check out Instagram. Definitely give him a bunch of follows. Let's increase the follow. Let's get it working. Subscriptions, the whole nine, and be on the lookout for the YouTube. I remember what you said.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, my friend. Peace and blessings. We definitely had a wonderful time. Thank you so much for all the info. I'm truly loving it, and I can't wait to share this video. I cannot wait. This is going to be amazing.
It's my pleasure. Thank you. And thanks everyone for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
My friend, you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day, and we look forward to seeing more from you.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
Thank you.